Jamal hit the pavement hard. His hands scraped against the rough concrete, the sting radiating up his arms. Gasps rippled through the onlookers, but no one stepped in. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths as he pushed himself up, the weight of humiliation far heavier than the pain in his hands. "Stay down, boy." The voice was sharp, filled with contempt. Jamal looked up to see the dealership's lead salesman, an older white man in a tailored navy suit, standing over him with a smirk. The towering security guard beside him, thick arms crossed over his chest, was daring Jamal to make a wrong move. "I told you, we don't entertain thieves here," the salesman continued, adjusting the gold cufflinks on his sleeves as if Jamal were nothing more than dirt beneath his polished shoes. "You people love to try your luck, don't you? Always looking for a handout, thinking you belong where you don't." Jamal clenched his jaw. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from rage. He had been excited to visit the luxury car dealership, just to admire the cars he dreamed of owning one day. He hadn't even touched anything before the salesman had locked eyes on him, suspicion painted across his face. It wasn't long before security had grabbed him, forcefully escorting him out, hurling accusations as they dragged him toward the door. He hadn't even had time to explain before they had tossed him out like garbage. A crowd had gathered. Customers, employees, pedestrians passing by. Some watched with pity, others with curiosity. A few even pulled out their phones, recording. But no one intervened. "I didn't steal anything," Jamal said through gritted teeth, his voice steady despite the fire burning inside him. "I was just looking." The salesman laughed coldly. "Oh, you were just looking? Right. And I suppose the next thing you were going to do was pull out cash and buy one of these cars." He gestured toward the sleek sports cars behind the glass windows, each one glistening under the showroom lights. "Let me guess, you were about to test drive the Rolls Royce?" His voice dripped with mockery. "Boy, you can't even afford the tires on that car." Jamal's fists clenched. His pride screamed at him to fight back, to tell this man exactly who he was and where he came from. But he knew better. He had seen how situations like this played out. A single wrong word, a single act of defiance, and suddenly he'd be the aggressor. The security guard stepped forward, looming over him. "I suggest you take a hint and get lost before we call the cops," he growled. Jamal took a slow breath, forcing himself to stay calm. He didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing him lash out. He turned on his heels and walked away, his shoulders tight with suppressed anger. But as he stepped onto the sidewalk, a low hum filled the air. A luxury Rolls Royce Phantom pulled up to the curb. The air seemed to shift as the sleek black vehicle came to a stop, its deep chrome accents gleaming under the afternoon sun. Heads turned. Even the arrogant salesman and security guard hesitated. The driver stepped out first, a man in a tailored suit with an earpiece, his presence exuding authority. He walked to the back of the vehicle and opened the door. The first thing Jamal saw was the red-bottomed stilettos hitting the pavement. Then slowly his mother emerged. She was breathtaking in her power. Dressed in an elegant white designer suit, diamond earrings shimmering, her aura commanded immediate respect. Her eyes, sharp as daggers, scanned the scene with chilling precision before settling on Jamal. Silence fell over the dealership. The salesman's smirk faltered. Jamal straightened, meeting his mother's gaze. She stepped forward, each click of her heels against the pavement echoing through the stunned onlookers. The driver closed the car door behind her as she turned her attention to the salesman, her expression unreadable. "And who," she said, her voice silky but laced with steel, "is responsible for putting their hands on my son?" The salesman opened his mouth, but no words came out. His arrogance drained from his face as he took in the expensive vehicle, the armed security detail, and most importantly, the woman in front of him. Recognition flickered in his eyes, followed by sheer panic. "Ms. Caldwell," he stammered, suddenly struggling to find his voice. Jamal's lips curled into a knowing smirk. "That's right. Say her name." His mother was no ordinary woman. Olivia Caldwell was one of the most influential business moguls in the country, a billionaire CEO who owned half the luxury hotels in the city. And this dealership? It was on the list of businesses that regularly catered to her high-profile clientele. The security guard, who had been so eager to throw Jamal out moments ago, now looked like he wanted to disappear. His arms, once crossed in authority, dropped to his sides. Ms. Caldwell exhaled slowly, as if trying to contain the storm brewing inside her. "I asked a question," she said, her voice like ice. "Who put their hands on my son?" The silence was deafening. Jamal glanced at the salesman, watching as the color drained from his face. He opened his mouth again, searching for an excuse, but no lie would be enough to save him now. The security guard took a small step back. The entire dealership staff stood frozen, their breaths held in anticipation. Jamal's mother tilted her head, her lips pressing together in a way that told him she was about to unleash hell. "Very well," she said coolly. "I suppose I'll just have to handle this myself." She pulled out her phone and pressed a single button. "I want the owner of this dealership on the line. Now." The salesman's breath hitched. The security guard swallowed hard. Jamal could feel it. Justice was coming. And it was going to be glorious. The salesman's breath hitched. The security guard swallowed hard. Jamal could feel it. Justice was coming. And it was going to be glorious. The dealership remained frozen, the air thick with tension. Every pair of eyes locked onto Olivia Caldwell as she held the phone to her ear, her face unreadable, her presence suffocating the arrogance that had once filled the room. "I expect an immediate response," she said smoothly. "You have 60 seconds. The salesman's forehead glistened with sweat. He glanced at the security guard, but the other man offered no help. This wasn't just a dissatisfied customer. They had crossed the wrong woman. And now, there was nowhere to hide. Then, the phone in Olivia's hand buzzed. She answered instantly. "Mr. Reynolds," she greeted, her voice sharp. "I assume you're aware of the disgraceful treatment my son just endured at your establishment?" The blood drained from the salesman's face. "Mr. Reynolds, the owner, the man who signed his paycheck." "I see," Olivia continued. "Good. Then I expect you to rectify this situation immediately." A pause. Her eyes flicked toward the salesman, and whatever she heard on the other end made her lips curve into a cold smile. "No, I'm still here. And yes, I'll wait." She lowered the phone just slightly, enough to let her gaze pierce through the salesman like a blade. "What's your name?" she asked, though it was clear she didn't actually care. Roger," he stammered. "Roger Fields." "Roger," Olivia repeated, tasting the name like it was something unpleasant. "Tell me, Roger, do you often throw potential customers onto the pavement?" "I didn't know." "Oh, I think you knew exactly what you were doing," she cut him off. "And now I want to know why." Roger opened his mouth, scrambling for words, but Olivia wasn't interested in excuses. She lifted the phone back to her ear. "He's standing right in front of me," she said to Mr. Reynolds. "Good. Then I'll let him hear it from you." She held the phone out. "Take it." Roger hesitated before reluctantly reaching for it. His hands trembled as he pressed the device to his ear. "Yes, sir, I." Whatever was said on the other end made Roger flinch. His expression crumbled as he listened, his nods becoming frantic, his lips parting but unable to form a single coherent response. The dealership employees whispered among themselves, some stepping farther away as if not wanting to be associated with him. Jamal watched the man shrink, satisfaction curling in his chest. This was the same person who had shoved him, humiliated him. And now he was nothing but a sniveling coward. Roger slowly lowered the phone, his fingers gripping it so tightly his knuckles turned white. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "M.S. Caldwell," he choked out. I deeply apologize for the misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Olivia's eyebrows lifted. "So, you didn't throw my son out? Didn't call him a thief? Didn't try to humiliate him?" Roger's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He knew there was no right answer. No way out. The shrill ring of the dealership's phone cut through the heavy silence. One of the receptionists hesitated before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, sir. Right away." She placed the phone down gently and turned toward Roger, her eyes wide. "It's for you. From corporate." Roger looked as though he might be sick. "Perhaps you should take that," Olivia suggested coolly, her arms folding as she stepped aside. Roger stumbled toward the desk, each step heavier than the last. He picked up the receiver with shaky hands. Hello." The conversation was brief. Barely 10 seconds passed before his shoulders slumped, his face turning an ashen shade of gray. The room was silent enough that Jamal could hear the exhale of breath Roger released when he finally placed the phone down. Roger turned back toward Olivia and Jamal, his hands now hanging uselessly at his sides. You're fired," Olivia said before he could even say the words himself. "Effective immediately, I assume?" He nodded stiffly, his lips pressing into a thin, bloodless line. The security guard took a small step back, as if he too feared for his own position. His earlier bravado had all but evaporated. Roger tried again, but there was nothing left to say. Jamal could see the way his mother's patience was thinning. She sighed, adjusting the cuff of her suit jacket. "I could end this dealership today," she murmured. "With a single phone call." Roger flinched. "Please, I won't," she continued, her voice soft but deadly. "Not yet, but you will leave. Now." He didn't need to be told twice. With his head lowered and his pride in shambles, Roger turned and walked toward the exit. No one stopped him. No one said a word. He had been powerful here, until he wasn't. Until the weight of his arrogance came crashing down upon him. The moment the door shut behind him, Olivia exhaled, as if ridding the air of his presence. Then she turned back toward the showroom, her gaze sweeping over the remaining employees. "I believe there's business to discuss," she said, her voice lighter now, but still carrying that undeniable authority. Jamal's lips twitched. He knew exactly what was coming next. The dealership manager, a thin man with thinning hair, stepped forward hesitantly. "Ms. Caldwell, please allow us to make this right. Anything you need, anything at all." She arched a perfectly sculpted brow. "Anything?" He nodded eagerly. "Absolutely." Jamal watched as a slow, satisfied smile curved his mother's lips. The kind that promised something big was coming. Something no one in that dealership would forget. "I'll take the Rolls Royce," she said smoothly, her fingers grazing her chin as if in thought. But not just any model. Her eyes locked onto the most expensive one on the floor, its sleek, obsidian frame glistening under the showroom lights. "That one." Jamal's heart skipped a beat. "Of course," the manager rushed to say. "We'll get the paperwork started immediately." His mother hummed. "And," she added, her voice teasing but firm, "I believe my son deserves an apology." The manager paled, glancing toward Jamal. Jamal met his gaze head-on, waiting. The man hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Young man," he started. "I." The doors to the dealership suddenly swung open. A group of sharply dressed executives stepped inside, their expressions unreadable. Olivia turned, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. "Ah," she murmured. "Right on time." Jamal glanced between her and the approaching executives, realization dawning. Whatever was about to happen next, this dealership wasn't ready for it. The air in the dealership shifted the moment the executives stepped inside. Their polished shoes clicked against the marble floors, their tailored suits exuding power. Jamal stole a glance at his mother. Olivia Caldwell was as poised as ever, her smirk barely contained. She had planned for this. Every move she made had led to this moment. The manager swallowed hard, his gaze darting between Olivia and the men now filling his showroom. "Miss Caldwell," the lead executive greeted, his voice smooth but laced with curiosity. "I assume you've had quite the experience here today." "Oh, you could say that," Olivia replied, her tone amused but firm. "Though I imagine my son would describe it differently." Jamal didn't miss the way the manager flinched at those words. The executive's gaze flicked to him. "And you must be Jamal." Jamal nodded. "Yes, sir." The man's eyes softened. "My apologies, young man. You should have never been treated this way. This dealership represents a brand that prides itself on exclusivity, not exclusion." Jamal's jaw clenched. It was a nice speech. Too nice. Olivia wasn't impressed either. "Words are cheap, Mr. Carter," she said, addressing the lead executive directly. "Actions, however, they have value." Mr. Carter adjusted his cuffs. "I couldn't agree more, Ms. Caldwell." He turned to the dealership manager. "Mr. Benson, do you recall our last conversation about customer service?" The manager, Benson, visibly paled. "Sir, Save it," Carter interrupted, his voice turning sharp. "You were warned about behavior like this. About discriminatory practices." Benson's lips pressed into a thin line. He knew where this was going. Jamal folded his arms, watching as the power balance continued to shift. It was happening again, just like with Roger. The arrogance was fading, replaced by panic. Carter sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "As of this moment, you are no longer the manager of this establishment." Gasps rippled through the dealership. Employees exchanged glances, whispers flying between them. Benson looked like he had been slapped. "Sir, please. Your office. Now." Carter's tone left no room for argument. Benson hesitated, then turned stiffly on his heel, marching toward the back. The silence he left behind was deafening. Jamal exhaled. Another one down. Carter turned back to Olivia. "I assume this is a step in the right direction?" Her lips curved. "It's a start." The remaining executives nodded in agreement. Then one of them, a woman with sleek black hair, stepped forward. "We want to make this right, Miss Caldwell. For you, for your son, and for every customer who walks through these doors." Jamal didn't miss the subtle shift in her wording. This wasn't just about them anymore. This was bigger. "Good," Olivia said smoothly. "Then let's discuss terms." Carter's brows lifted. "Terms? You didn't think I'd let you off with a simple apology, did you?" Olivia's voice dripped with amusement. No. We need a public statement. A policy change. A full investigation into the hiring and training processes of this dealership." Jamal's stomach tightened with pride. His mother wasn't just making them regret their actions. She was making sure no one else would suffer the same humiliation. Carter exhaled, but there was something like respect in his eyes. "You drive a hard bargain, Miss Caldwell." She smirked. "I'm a businesswoman, Mr. Carter, and you're going to find that I always get what I want." A heavy pause settled between them before Carter finally nodded. "Very well. We'll draw up the necessary agreements." Jamal felt a thrill rush through him. They were winning. No, they had already won. Olivia turned toward him, her expression softer now. "Sweetheart, would you like to do the honors?" Jamal blinked. "What?" She gestured toward the Rolls Royce. "I believe this one belongs to you now." His heart nearly stopped. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. Everyone in the showroom watched, waiting, as Jamal stepped toward the luxury car. The same car he had been forbidden from even looking at just yesterday. He ran a hand over the sleek frame, his fingers trailing over the shimmering paint. The moment was surreal. Then Olivia snapped her fingers. Immediately, one of the salespeople scrambled forward, holding out the keys. Jamal hesitated for only a moment before reaching out and taking them. A perfect fit. The showroom erupted into applause. Employees clapped, some with genuine excitement, others simply relieved to still have a job. Customers, those who had been silently watching from the sidelines, cheered in support. Jamal glanced at his mother. She nodded. He slid into the driver's seat, the leather soft beneath him. A dream turned reality. He pressed the start button. The engine purred to life, a deep, powerful growl that sent vibrations through the entire dealership. Jamal exhaled, gripping the wheel. Victory had never felt so sweet. But just as he prepared to shift into gear, the doors to the dealership swung open, hard. A figure stormed inside, face twisted with rage. Jamal's stomach dropped. It was Roger, and he wasn't alone. Behind him, a man in an expensive suit followed, his expression unreadable. Jamal's grip on the wheel tightened as he met his mother's gaze through the windshield. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Roger's face was a storm of fury as he stomped toward the Rolls Royce. His eyes locked onto Jamal, his jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might snap. Behind him, the man in the expensive suit strode with a more measured pace, but his presence radiated authority. Jamal's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. He didn't know who the second man was, but he had a bad feeling about this. Olivia, ever composed, took a step forward to meet them halfway. "I was wondering when you'd show up, Roger." Her voice was calm, but Jamal caught the sharpness beneath it. Roger sneered. "You think you can waltz in here 'cause a scene, and just take whatever you want?" He gestured wildly at the Rolls Royce. "This isn't how the world works." Jamal scoffed. "Oh, you mean like how the world worked yesterday when you kicked me out for no reason?" Roger's face darkened, but before he could speak, the man beside him finally stepped forward. He was older, his salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed, his tailored suit fitting him like a second skin. His eyes, though, were cold, calculating. "I'm Charles Lancaster," he said smoothly, extending a hand toward Olivia. "Senior Vice President of this dealership's parent company." Olivia didn't take his hand. "I know who you are." Lancaster smirked as he lowered his hand. "Then you know that this situation is complicated." "There's nothing complicated about it," Olivia said. "Your employees discriminated against my son. We had a discussion with Mr. Carter, and corrective actions were taken. This dealership's reputation is already in flames, Mr. Lancaster. Do you really want to add fuel to the fire?" Lancaster chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Miss Caldwell, you and I both know that public perception is a game of strategy. And I'm here to make sure this particular game ends in our favor." Jamal shifted in the driver's seat. He didn't like this guy. Not one bit. Roger, still fuming, pointed an accusing finger at Jamal. "That car doesn't belong to him. We have a policy." "A policy?" Olivia cut in, laughing dryly. "The same policy that allowed your manager to belittle my son?" The same policy that let him be thrown out like trash. Lancaster sighed, rubbing his temples like this was all beneath him. Ms. Caldwell, let's be adults about this. We can reach an agreement. I've already reached my agreement with Mr. Carter, Olivia countered. Well, I'm here to offer a better one. Lancaster turned his gaze toward Jamal. I'm afraid there was an oversight. That Rolls Royce was never meant to be sold. It's a special model reserved for elite clientele. Jamal's blood boiled. He knew exactly what Lancaster was doing, trying to twist the rules to take the victory away from them. Olivia's expression didn't waver. I see. So now that a young black man owns it, suddenly it's reserved? Careful, Lancaster warned, his voice dropping to a dangerous tone. Accusations like that can be costly. Not as costly as the lawsuit I'll be filing if you don't honor this transaction, Olivia shot back. Jamal smirked. That shut him up. Lancaster exhaled, clearly annoyed. Fine. The car is his. But there is one more matter to address. Olivia crossed her arms. Oh, and what would that be? Lancaster gestured toward Roger, who straightened up with a smug expression. Mr. Benson here has raised concerns about the disturbance you caused in our establishment. Jamal narrowed his eyes. Disturbance? This guy was really stretching now. Lancaster continued. We have reviewed security footage, and I must say, we don't take kindly to hostility toward our staff. There are damages to the dealership's reputation that need to be accounted for. Jamal nearly laughed. Are you serious? Roger grinned. Very. We have every right to press charges, Lancaster added smoothly. For trespassing, for harassment, even for defamation. The air in the room turned ice cold. Jamal looked at his mother, but Olivia didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. A slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down Jamal's spine. You're making a mistake, Mr. Lancaster, she said, her voice like silk hiding steel. A very big mistake. Lancaster raised a brow. Am I? Yes, Olivia replied, reaching into her handbag and pulling out a single piece of paper. Because before you try to threaten us with lawsuits, you should probably take a look at this. She handed it to Lancaster. He frowned as he unfolded it, scanning the words. And then his face lost all color. Roger peeked over his shoulder, his smirk vanishing instantly. What is that? Lancaster's hands trembled slightly as he looked up at Olivia. This is impossible. Jamal leaned forward, trying to see what was written on the paper. What is it? Olivia's smirk deepened. It's called leverage. Lancaster's breathing grew shallow, his composed mask cracking. He shot a look at Roger, who was now sweating bullets. Whatever was on that paper, it was big. Jamal's heart pounded. He had never seen someone like Lancaster look so utterly defeated. But before anyone could say another word, the sound of sirens filled the air. Police cars pulled up outside the dealership, red and blue lights flashing wildly against the glass windows. Officers poured out, moving with purpose. And then, at the very front of the group, a woman stepped forward. A woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper uniform. The police chief. Lancaster and Roger froze, their eyes widening in terror. Jamal turned to his mother. Mom, what did you do? Olivia simply smiled. The air inside the dealership turned electric as the police chief stepped through the glass doors, her boots clicking sharply against the polished floor. Every officer behind her moved in formation, their expressions unreadable. The entire dealership had gone silent, employees and customers frozen in place, watching with bated breath. Lancaster and Roger stood rigid, their faces pale. The paper in Lancaster's hand shook slightly, as if he had just realized the game he had been playing was no longer in his favor. Jamal swallowed hard. His mother, Olivia, remained composed, her eyes fixed on the police chief. He had no idea what was about to happen, but one thing was clear. His mother had planned this down to the last detail. Ms. Caldwell, the police chief greeted, nodding respectfully. I came as soon as I got your message. Roger's jaw nearly hit the floor. Message? You called the police. His voice cracked slightly, the confidence he had earlier nowhere to be found. Olivia turned to him, her smile razor-sharp. Of course. What did you think was going to happen? Lancaster cleared his throat, trying to salvage control of the situation. Chief Daniels, this is a misunderstanding. There's no need for law enforcement involvement. The chief arched a brow. A misunderstanding? She gestured toward the sheet of paper in Lancaster's trembling hands. Is that what you're calling it? Jamal shifted slightly, his curiosity burning. Can someone please tell me what's on that paper? Lancaster's lips pressed into a thin line. It's a fabrication. A blatant attempt to. Why don't I read it aloud then? Olivia interrupted, taking the paper back from his hands before he could react. She unfolded it, cleared her throat, and then began. Official complaint filed against Roger Benson and Charles Lancaster for fraudulent business practices, racial discrimination, and financial misconduct. Evidence submitted includes recorded audio conversations, falsified documents, and testimonies from former employees. Jamal's breath caught in his throat. He glanced at Roger, whose face had gone from red to ashen gray. The dealership employees exchanged hushed whispers, their eyes darting between their boss and Olivia. You can't possibly have," Lancaster sputtered, but Olivia cut him off with a sharp look. "Oh, but I do. And more," she said, folding the paper neatly. "I have proof of illegal markup schemes targeting black and minority buyers. I have recorded conversations of Roger here laughing about how he never lets certain people test drive the luxury cars. And I have financial records that show discrepancies that corporate is going to be very interested in." Lancaster's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Roger, on the other hand, was visibly shaking now. "That's ridiculous," Roger finally blurted. There's no way you could have." "She did." A new voice chimed in from the side. Everyone turned to see Mr. Carter, the regional manager, stepping into view. He held a tablet in his hands, and with a tap, he projected a document onto the dealership's main screen. It was filled with spreadsheets, emails, and, most damning of all, audio transcripts. Roger took a step back like he had been physically hit. No, this is a setup." Lancaster turned to Carter, his voice low and desperate. "You don't have to do this. We can fix this." "No," Carter cut him off. "We can't, because it's already been sent to corporate. And to the press." Roger let out a strangled sound, his knees nearly buckling. Chief Daniels exhaled, then turned to her officers. "Arrest him." It was as if the entire dealership gasped at once. 2 officers stepped forward, grabbing Roger's arms before he could react. He thrashed slightly, but they were too strong. No, you can't do this. I built this place." Roger screamed, his voice cracking. "I won't go down like this." "You already have," Olivia said coolly. "And it's exactly what you deserve." Jamal watched, stunned, as they began reading Roger his rights. Lancaster, still reeling, took a step back, his hands raised slightly. I had nothing to do with this. You can't prove." "Oh, we can," Carter said, his voice grim. "And I suggest you get a good lawyer. Corporate is already conducting a full audit. By the time they're done, you won't have a company to hide behind." Lancaster's face crumpled. His world was collapsing, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Jamal felt something lift in his chest. Something he hadn't even realized he'd been carrying since the moment Roger had thrown him out of the dealership the day before. Justice. But just as he was beginning to process it all, one of the officers suddenly turned toward Olivia with an unreadable expression. "There's one more thing, ma'am," the officer said. Olivia frowned slightly. "Yes." The officer hesitated before finally speaking. "We received an anonymous tip this morning. About your past." Jamal's stomach twisted. "What?" Olivia's expression remained calm, but Jamal could see the flicker of something beneath it. The officer exhaled. "We need to talk." Jamal's breath caught as his mother gave him a reassuring glance before stepping toward the officer. "What do you mean about her past?" Jamal asked, but no one answered him. Instead, Olivia turned back to him with a calm but firm voice. "Stay here, Jamal. I'll handle this." Jamal's heartbeat pounded in his ears as he watched his mother follow the officer toward the exit. His mind was spinning. What did they mean about her past? And why did it feel like things had just taken a turn he never saw coming? Jamal's heart pounded as he watched his mother follow the officer toward the exit. The weight of those words, "about your past," hung in the air like an ominous storm cloud. He wanted to follow, to demand answers, but something in Olivia's steady gaze told him to stay put. It was the same look she always gave him when she had a plan. And Olivia Caldwell always had a plan. The dealership remained frozen in stunned silence. Roger Benson had been led away in cuffs. Charles Lancaster was trembling under the weight of his impending downfall, and the employees stood motionless, whispering among themselves. Jamal turned to Mr. Carter, who still held his tablet, watching everything unfold. "What did they mean?" "My mom's passed." Carter exhaled. "I don't know, son. But if there's one thing I do know, it's that your mother is not someone to be underestimated." Jamal clenched his jaw, his instincts screaming at him to go after her. But before he could make a move, the sound of high-end tires screeching against the pavement outside snapped everyone's attention toward the glass doors. A Rolls Royce Phantom glided into the parking lot, its presence commanding attention. The sunlight gleamed off its pristine black finish, the spirit of ecstasy hood ornament reflecting in the glass windows of the dealership. Gasps rippled through the room. Employees, customers, and even Lancaster turned toward the luxurious vehicle as it came to a smooth stop. The driver, a sharply dressed man in a crisp black suit, stepped out first and walked around to open the back door. Jamal's breath hitched as Olivia stepped out, her power suit still immaculate, her expression unreadable. But she wasn't alone. A second figure emerged, a man in an expensive tailored suit, dark shades shielding his eyes, his presence exuding an aura of control and authority. The dealership employees began murmuring among themselves. Jamal knew exactly who he was. Malcolm Harrington, billionaire real estate mogul, one of the most powerful black business figures in the country, and Olivia's longtime friend and business partner. The moment Lancaster recognized him, his face drained of all color. "Impossible," Lancaster whispered. "Why would he be here?" Harrington removed his shades and surveyed the dealership with an amused smirk. "Nice place," he said casually. Or at least it was. Jamal watched his mother with burning curiosity. "Mom, what's going on?" Olivia met his gaze with a knowing smile before shifting her attention to Lancaster. "Charles, let's cut to the chase. You've lost. Corporate has been notified, Roger has been arrested, and your business is about to crumble." Lancaster took a staggering step back, his hands shaking. You planned this." Olivia arched a brow. "You really thought you could get away with humiliating my son?" The billionaire beside her chuckled. "And you thought you could continue running this place after what's been uncovered?" He shook his head. "Corporate isn't just removing you. They're selling this dealership to new ownership." Lancaster's eyes widened in horror. No, I can fix this." "You had your chance," Olivia interrupted coldly. "Now it belongs to me." Jamal blinked in shock. "Wait, what?" Harrington patted Olivia's shoulder. "It's official. Olivia Caldwell is now the owner of this dealership." The entire dealership erupted into gasps and stunned murmurs. Lancaster's legs nearly gave out. "No, this can't be happening. I warned you," Olivia said smoothly. "You put your prejudice before your business. And now you have neither." Lancaster stumbled backward, his hands gripping his head in disbelief. Jamal let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. His mother hadn't just fought back, she had completely taken over. Employees exchanged glances, unsure of what this meant for them. Olivia turned to them with a reassuring smile. "For those of you who have been mistreated, underpaid, and undervalued, change is coming. If you've done your job with integrity, you have nothing to worry about." Carter grinned. "I always knew you'd be back, Olivia." Olivia smirked. "You know me, Carter. I don't lose." Jamal was still trying to wrap his head around everything when Olivia turned back to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Son, this dealership was never just about cars. It was about power, respect, and legacy. And now we own it." Jamal exhaled sharply, still overwhelmed, but a smile crept onto his lips. Just yesterday, he had been thrown out of this place, humiliated, treated like he didn't belong. And today, his billionaire mother's Rolls Royce had arrived to take everything back. If you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. What would you have done in Jamal's shoes? Let us know in the comments below.